Thank you, thank you. Andrew, thank you. Program directors, members of the Mabele family, Dr. Aaron Mutwaledi, the Minister of Health, Steve Litseke, the Deputy Chair of SANAC, members of the South African AIDS Council, South African National AIDS Council, and leaders and members of civil society and friends and comrades. We are here to bid farewell to a beloved friend, a sister, a colleague and a comrade. But we are also here to honor and celebrate a life that has been well lived. As we bid farewell to a remarkable South African, a tireless campaigner, we are reminded of Prudence as a person who was very beautiful, but more importantly, a person who really had a beautiful soul, whose life also had great purpose. Our thoughts at this moment and prayers are with the Mabele family. We hope that in your bereavement as a family, you can draw comfort and some strength from the many people in this country and indeed abroad who offer you their gratitude and their condolences. Gratitude for producing such an extraordinary human being. As we struggle as her colleagues and friends and fellow workers to come to terms with the deep pain of her passing, we must at the same time celebrate her life that made such a profound difference in the lives of so many people. We celebrate the life of a person through her activism, through her passion, through her compassion, her commitment, her defiance, and that has left an indelible mark on all of us. Prudence's courageous life journey, the campaigns that she fought, the causes that she championed, echoed historic march by 20,000 women to the Union buildings in 1956. Prudence was a modern-day iteration of the fearless, steadfast conviction and selfless activism that drove people like Sophie de Bruyn, Lily Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, and so many other notable women to march to the very bastion of the apartheid regime, the Union buildings. Armed with the same bravery and determination of those thousands of women who marched on the Union buildings, she did not see the struggle that she had to fight in one dimension. It was not a fight simply for the rights of people living with HIV. It was a much broader fight. In the obituary that you have in your hands, Prudence's description as depicted in the first sentence, which is so apt, says, a home girl with a grenade. I want to correct that description because When I saw the description in the obituary, the picture that came to mind to me also came alive when Archbishop Mbulelo Jasi described the secret meeting that I had with him and Prudence and the others. But when she came to that meeting, I immediately got a sense after reading this obituary that Prudence was not only a girl with a grenade in her hand. Yes, she did have a grenade in her hand, but she had a grenade whose pin had been taken out, and it was ready to be thrown at the Deputy President's office, or maybe even the President's office. I think it was her madness that stopped her from smashing the Union buildings to smithereens. And thank you for your madness, Prudence. We still have the Union buildings today. She was perpetually involved in a fight. It was a fight to affirm the rights, the dignity and well-being of every person who suffered discrimination, oppression, stigmatization, and exploitation. Her very being reflected the many dimensions of human endeavor. She was a humanist, a comrade, an activist, a leader, a manager, and she was also a Sangoma. None of these trumped the other. She was a multifaceted individual who shouted with the loudest voice, as you can imagine, and marched and challenged authority, and later went home to the silent, sacred space of her ancestors, where she meditated and connected with the spirits. It is fair to say that when HIV struck the 18-year-old Prudence Mabele, it had struck a rock. Prudence decided not to hide her status, becoming one of the very first South African women to publicly acknowledge her HIV status. In doing so, she felt the full force of stigma. She had to change her course of study from medical technology because the institution, the Cape Peninsula Technikon, feared that she may infect other students in the laboratory. Yet, despite the daily attacks on her dignity, despite the bouts of despair and disillusionment, she had the resilience and the fortitude to form the Positive Women's Network at Ga-Rankuwa Hospital. 2 years later, Prudence helped to set up, together with others, the Treatment Action Campaign to fight for antiretroviral treatment. In those early years of our democracy, as many activists pursued a quieter life after the exertions of our liberation struggle, Prudence bravely opened new frontiers of struggle. Prudence was amongst those AIDS activists who were essentially fighting a struggle to be human, to be remembered as part of the human race, as worthy, normal individuals with a manageable condition. Prudence gave voice to thousands whose stories and experiences, whose fears and dreams often went unheard, unwritten, and unknown. She gave voice and form to those struggles and those stories. She brought comfort to those she knew were pained by physical discomfort, social stigma, and the violation of their fundamental human rights. Prudence never stood back from speaking truth to power. She spoke of her vision of the South Africa of her dreams. It was a South Africa that had a healthcare system that met the needs of all South Africans, especially the poor. She spoke of a South Africa that housed its citizens. She dreamed of a South Africa that educated and skilled its young people. But she also spoke of a South Africa that had a leadership core, that had integrity, a leadership core that did everything to advance the interests of the citizens of this country, and not only just some or just a few. Prudence envisaged a South Africa that was free of corruption. She envisaged a South Africa where the resources of our nation were used prudently and efficiently to advance the lives of the poor. A South Africa where women were affirmed and where women felt safe. That is the South Africa that Prudence dreamt of and envisaged. She never stopped questioning and confronting those whom she believed were neglecting their own duty to society. She spoke her mind to shape our minds and build networks of activism and support that changed thousands, if not millions, of lives. As we pay tribute to Prudence, we have to ask ourselves an uncomfortable question. An uncomfortable question of the measure of one's life on earth. And the uncomfortable question is the measure of Prudence's life. Christine Hanna, a writer, helps us to put Prudence's life in perspective when she said, "The measure of a person comes down to moments spread out like dots of pain on the canvas of life. Everything that you were, everything that you'll be someday, resides in the small, seemingly ordinary choices of everyday life. Each decision seems as insignificant as a left turn on an unfamiliar road when you have no destination in mind. But the decisions accumulate until you realize one day that they have made you the person that you are." Close quotes. What she did, that is Prudence, may seem like little dots of her personal pain, but these little dots have led to our national achievement in as far as putting millions of people in South Africa on antiretroviral treatment. Our intervention to save the lives of millions of South Africans should clearly be seen as a tribute to Prudence's life. We say and we think that Prudence's life was so large. Yes, and indeed it was large. It was large because her life had an impact an impact that we feel today, an impact that will live in the lives of many, many people. Prudence did not give up her struggle. She kept fighting because she saw many lives that still needed to be saved, the many wounds that still needed to be healed, the many injustices that still needed to be righted, and the many indignities that still needed to be confronted. Just 2 months ago, we were honored to have Prudence join us in the public gallery of the National Assembly in Cape Town when the presidency presented its budget. My office invited Prudence, together with a number of young women, to come to Parliament. It was an opportunity to present Prudence and a group of remarkable young people to the parliamentarians of our country, to illustrate the depth of talent, commitment, and fortitude that underlies social transformation in our country. It is our hope that many young people, many young women that is, will follow in Prudence's footsteps. She was given, together with the other young women, a standing ovation. But the standing ovation was even louder when we told Prudence's story. Prudence was a true example to many young people. We need young people who are passionate, like Prudence, who are committed and who care deeply about the welfare of others, just as Prudence did. We need young people who will stand up for the rights and the dignity for the most vulnerable and marginalized in our country. We need young people with the courage to challenge complacency, to challenge power, to challenge incompetence, to challenge arrogance and corruption. Importantly, we need young people who will organize, mobilize, conscientize, and build, just as Prudence did. South Africa and our people have lost a true fighter, an activist who was fearless, who was mad, wonderfully mad, who was passionate, who was compassionate. She believed in resolving issues through dialogue and continued to bring all sectors of civil society together in all efforts. She was not intimidated by science because she experienced many of the things scientists write about and was therefore the best advocate. She lived her life unapologetically and had strong views about the actual experience of living with HIV. In the end, Prudence outlived AIDS. She epitomized hope and life at the same time. Today, we bid farewell to Prudence and allow her to take leave of every banner, every poster, every march, every argument, every home visit, every podium, and every loss of a comrade that marked her own life. Your time to rest has finally come, Prudence. Leave the struggle to us, and leave the struggle to everyone who is here. The pledge that was well articulated by Mark is a pledge that we all subscribe to. The sentence that was articulated by Archbishop Jasi is a statement that we all subscribe to. We will carry on with the fight. What Minister Motsoaledi said has great relevance to the fight that we are engaged in. It is not, as he correctly said, a fight against HIV only, also a fight against tuberculosis. This is the struggle that Prudence wanted us to carry on with. And carry on we shall. Let us learn from your life, Prudence, how to shape a better future in your absence. You have earned your place in history. Yes, there will be many remembrances that will be set up, installed, and erected after you. I have no doubt about that. This is something that we don't need to chant about. Prudence will live forever in our hearts and in our minds. And South Africa will never forget her. But most importantly, Prudence, you have made your home in our hearts. And for this, we thank you. We will remember you. Yes, we will erect statues after you because we want to remember you fondly. We want to remember you in the knowledge that we will continue with the fight against HIV and tuberculosis. Thank you very much for gracing this world, and we thank you for being part of our life. Thank you very much.